They say a Dybbuk is the restless spirit of the dead, clinging to the living, whispering in their ears, and taking hold of their soul to finish what it could not in life. To cast out a Dybbuk, rabbis would gather in sacred ritual, chanting ancient prayers to drive the spirit out through fear of divine judgment. Sometimes, when the Dybbuk refused to leave quietly, the rabbis would seal it in a vessel like a box or jar, binding it with holy words to keep its chaos locked away. But what if that cursed vessel, sealed long ago, was sold online to the highest bidder, unleashing what was never meant to be touched again? Summoned by a group of women during the Holocaust using a makeshift Ouija board, the spirit clung to their sorrow and survived in silence through the horrors. They managed to imprison it within an old wine cabinet, a silent prison that journeyed to America, eventually unearthed at an estate sale years later, after decades of being hidden to keep its dark energy at bay. Passed from one unsuspecting owner to the next, it left a trail of nightmares and waking dread until it found its way into the hands of famed ghost hunter Zach Bagans, who now keeps it sealed away, calling it one of the most dangerously dark objects he's ever encountered. Join us as we uncover the chilling tale of a cursed relic, one that has sown chaos from the haunted mansion where it rests today, all the way back to its dark beginnings, conjured by a circle of desperate women who dared to trap the horror they awaken. Hello, friends and family. Welcome back to another episode of Weekly Bazaar, where we show up every week and talk about weird shit. I'm Jessica, your old crone.
I'm Montana.
So how are you, darling?
Just living the dream, taking it day by day, darling.
You always call me my dear, so I thought I'd call you darling.
Darling, that's definitely an old crone thing to say, my darling.
My little sweet pea.
How are you, dear?
Tired. I think it might be the weather. It's just kind of gloomy, and it's been so pretty the past couple days. It just feels like one of those days you want to hibernate.
Yeah, I feel it.
Which is a good thing because I have so much editing to do that I'm going to be hibernating.
I know, I still have to research my topic. I've barely started.
Yeah, it's okay. You'll get it. I'm excited today. We're going to start a little bit of a series. I don't know how exactly we're going to do it. Like, it might be one of those things we come back to from time to time, just because there's so many episodes that we could potentially make out of it that it might get a little bit old after a while if we just did it in a row. But we're going to be doing cursed objects, and I was going to do it all in one episode, but I started with the first object and I made an entire episode out of the one object. So I was like, ooh, maybe we can do like a series, and just anytime we come back to it, just let it be known that it's an addition to the series.
I mean, there's a lot of cursed objects out there, and some of them are so in depth you have to do just one episode on it. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. And like just some of the stuff that's tied to the objects, like to go and research that a little bit, talk a little bit about the history of it. And yeah, it just adds up quickly.
Yep, and I've seen this cursed object in real life.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about the Dybbuk Box, and I looked to see and make sure that I was pronouncing that correctly because I want to say Dybbuk, but it is Dybbuk, and
Yeah,
that's actually,
you're pronouncing it right.
Yeah, Dybbuk, and it's spelled Dybbuk. So that's why it's kind of wonky, but it is the spirit in the cabinet. So it's a haunted cabinet, like a little wine cabinet. And that's what we're going to be starting with.
And it's in Zach Baggins, however you say his name's museum.
Yes, which we'll get to way at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But any updates? Any shout outs?
Yeah, so we both do want to give a shout out because last night we were on the Paddy Wagon podcast and it was a lot of fun. And so go check out his podcast. He just interviews a bunch of people and you can find him where you can listen to podcasts as well. But it was very entertaining. It was, like I said, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. He's very personable. And he had a lot of really kind things to say about our podcast, which was really nice to hear. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and we're going to have him on our podcast. So
yeah, stay tuned.
We already have a topic in mind.
We're actually going to be having a couple different guests coming up in the future, which is pretty new for us, at least for you and me. I think you did that more often back before I joined.
Yeah, but that was also a lot of people I knew. So this is actually just coming from all corners, just people I've never met before, and it's been a really fun experience. And it's kind of nice how he said last night, just you're going through the same thing with other podcasters, and you realize how much work it is and why a lot of podcasts give up, because it's so much work and people don't realize that, and it's a full-time job. So
it absolutely is.
So when you
can find us on patreon.com. No.
/ Weekly Bazaar.
Oh, I thought it was wrong.
No, you were right.
Ridiculous. I made you do all the plugs yesterday. I'm so bad at it. You're she always makes me do this.
That's fine. That's why I gave you the intro. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yes, it is nice connecting with other podcasters who understand the struggle and the grime. So shout out to everybody that does podcasts.
We see you.
So what about you? Any updates in your life?
Not that I can think of. Not really. I'm going to be working more. That's about the only thing. Going to a wedding in a week that's out of town, so I'm going to get to see family that I haven't seen in quite a while. So that'll be nice. But yeah, other than that, just been really focusing on getting better at what we're doing here and trying to find a good routine for that, because we've added so much to what we're doing. It's just trying to find a balance and still trying to get healthy, get my health on track. Just basic, boring adult shit.
Yeah, so go check out our social medias, Weekly Bazaar Podcast. Jessica does a really good job on the reels.
Thank you. And that was nice to hear too from Mike from Paddy Wagon. He was talking about how there's so many people kind of doing what we're doing, but that ours kind of stands out and is different. And I thought that was, and he said better. So I was like, wow, that's really cool to hear. But
he's probably going to listen to some episodes and was like, wow, I was not right.
Yeah. I think he hasn't listened to a full episode yet, and he's going to be like, oh, ugh.
What was I thinking? Oh no. Shit.
No, so in all seriousness, it was nice to hear that. And we know we have a lot to learn, and we're learning as we go, but it's just part of the process, and it's a lot of fun to learn new things. So we'll just keep getting better and better.
Yeah, and it was funny because he asked us a lot of massage therapist questions, because that's what we do. And then we're like, yeah, so our podcast is to get out of doing massage therapy.
Yep.
Your girls are getting old. Their bodies are wearing down.
It's true. It's hard work.
So here we are.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm very excited for this episode.
All right. So today we're opening the door to a series about some of the world's most notorious cursed objects. And if you are on YouTube, and seeing us. I'm trying something new today and reading off of my phone because normally I do everything up on my laptop, but I'm going to try this out. So that's why I'm looking down a lot. Just FYI. So there's no better place to begin than with one of the most infamous modern hauntings of all, the Dybbuk Box. You've probably heard the name. Maybe it was whispered in a documentary. Maybe it showed up in your YouTube recommendations. Or maybe it was just a word you dismissed until now. And I fully admit I had never heard of this.
Really?
Never heard of it. It never haunted my YouTube recommendations.
Interesting.
Yeah. But the Dybbuk Box isn't just a spooky tale. It's a real object, a real item that has left a trail of terror, trauma, and death in its wake. So pour a glass of something strong and settle in as we discuss the Dybbuk Box, the haunted wine cabinet. So to understand the Dybbuk Box, we must first understand the concept of the Dybbuk. In Jewish mysticism, a Dybbuk is believed to be the dislocated soul of a deceased person, one that has failed to move on after death. The name comes from the Hebrew verb dabak, which means to cling or to attach. But this isn't a friendly ghost. A Dybbuk is a parasitic, malevolent spirit, often portrayed as angry, vengeful, or lost in confusion. Unlike demons from Christian lore, Dybbuks were once human. They retain memories, desires, and emotions, and those unresolved feelings can be dangerous. These spirits are said to attach themselves to the living, most often entering the body of someone who is vulnerable, emotionally, spiritually, or even physically. Once inside, they begin to manipulate their host, speaking through them, distorting their personality, even causing illness or mental disturbances. So,
Creepy.
yeah, super, super fooked up. There are ancient accounts in Jewish rabbinical texts of Dybbuks being exorcised by Kabbalistic rabbis, spiritual scholars who used Hebrew incantations, sigils, and sacred objects to force the spirit out. Sometimes, rather than banishing the Dybbuk back to the void, these exorcists would trap the spirit inside an object, a mirror, a scroll, a vessel. That is what the Dybbuk box is believed to be. It is important to note that the Dybbuk stories aren't just folklore whispered among old rabbis or medieval villages. Tales of Dybbuk possession have been documented well into the 20th century, particularly in Eastern Europe and parts of the Middle East. These spirits were blamed for strange illnesses, sudden madness, even tragic deaths. Some rabbis would travel from town to town to offer their services, performing exorcisms that could take hours or even days. So I thought I would look up some of these infamous or notorious or famous or whatever you want to say instances of exorcisms, just for some examples. So I will include 3 of those. So the first one, and oh my God, big words, hard words. Incoming.
Thank God it's you.
I always look this shit up and then I forget. Like I look it up to make sure I know how to pronounce it or at least get close, and then I'm like, oh, I forget. So the Dybbuk of Shtetl Midzarek Podlaski. So this was in 18th century Poland. So in this small town in Poland, I'm not going to say it again. I'm sorry. It's just too big of a word. During the late 1700s, a young bride named Leah began to behave erratically just days before her wedding. Her voice changed suddenly, deepening and snarling. She would speak in languages she had never learned, Hebrew, Aramaic, or even Latin. Her family panicked, believed she had become possessed by a Dybbuk, the spirit of her dead lover who had died tragically before they could marry.
Ooh.
He had sworn vengeance if she ever pledged herself to another man.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, get over yourself, dude. Don't you want her to be happy? You're
Clearly
dead.
not.
Local rabbis convened an emergency exorcism in the synagogue. Witnesses claimed the roof filled with an unbearable the roof. The
The
room
roof,
the
roof
roof the
is
roof
on
is
fire.
Witnesses claimed the room filled with an unbearable cold, and that Leah's body convulsed as the rabbis chanted. The Dybbuk allegedly confessed through her mouth, weeping, then cursing her betrothed. When it was finally expelled, a gust of wind blew through the sealed temple, extinguishing every candle. Leah never married. She lived a quiet life in isolation, often seen speaking to herself in languages no one could understand. But seriously, dude, get over yourself. Come on.
No.
Okay. Another instance is the Dybbuk of Rabbi Naaman's disciple. And this is early 1800s in none other than Ukraine, baby. Because Ukraine has a bunch of freaky shit going on.
Yes, they do.
Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, one of the most revered Hasidic masters, and I guess it's Hasidic Judaism. It's like a subclass of Judaism.
Okay.
So he was one of the most revered Hasidic masters, documented several cases of Dybbuk possession, but none more terrifying than the case of his own follower, a pious young man known simply as Moshe, I think. Moshe. Moshe or Moshe?
Moshe,
Moshe.
yeah.
I'm going to say Moshe. According to the rabbinic records, Moshe had begun experiencing blackouts, often waking up miles from home, with no memory of how he got there. Something similar to that actually happened to me when I was a kid.
Blacking out and not know how you got there?
Yeah, I was staying with my mom and I fell asleep on the couch and I woke up in the back seat of her car.
Like
And
with
no
her
idea.
driving or just you just in the back seat?
Just in the back seat of her parked car in the driveway. I must have sleepwalked.
Sleptwalk?
Yeah.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, it was creepy. He spoke in riddles, and at night, neighbors said that they could hear screams coming from his room, though no one was inside. The Dybbuk claimed to be the soul of a murderer who had not received a proper burial and was tormented by demons in the afterlife.
Well, you're a murderer, so.
Yeah. Yeah, what did you expect? These Dybbuks are super entitled.
Clearly.
Rabbi Nachman himself intervened, leading a painful and public exorcism. I imagine that would be very painful to try to
Yeah.
extract another being from your soul.
Well, also, if you watch stuff on exorcisms, it's like their body also contorts in weird ways
Yeah.
that I feel would also be very painful. Like when you came to and like your body just went through like an acrobat. Like, I don't know. That sounds painful to me.
Yeah, your limbs bending in ways that they're not naturally supposed to. That would be very painful on your ligaments and stuff.
No, and the thing that I think this the most creepiest about exorcisms are like when someone is possessed is them just start talking languages that you know they don't know.
Yeah.
Like Latin. It's like, where did you pull that out from?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the creepiest thing to me.
I wonder, because, there's always the other side of the coin where the skeptics come in. Like maybe it's not an actual demon possession, or maybe it's just an illness or like something wrong with the brain. And I know that in a lot of like open, like awake brain surgeries, when they have to keep the person awake to make sure that they're not damaging the brain, and they make them talk. And sometimes when they poke in certain parts of the brain, the people start talking in other languages
Yeah, I've heard
that they
that.
don't
Yeah.
know. Like it's That is creepy to me. That is almost like clearly we're computers and there are files in there that are buried deep down that they're like bringing to the surface that's programmed in there and we don't even know it. It's so creepy.
Well, there's also people that have woken up from brain surgery and they can speak languages, and it's like now they know stuff they didn't know before.
Yeah,
It's so bizarre.
it is.
Weekly Bizarre.
Weekly Bizarre. Sorry, Triangle. We dropped the ball on that one.
Triangle.
My Brazilian friend, Triangle.
Oh.
That's her gamer tag.
I was like, are you
Well, her
having a
nickname.
brain malfunction?
No. Hi, Triangle. Anyway.
Hi, Rectangle.
Okay. That's your new nickname, Rectangle from Montana. She'll like that.
Rectangle has more corners, more to love.
Hey, there you go. So the spirit was eventually forced into a bowl of water, which exploded as it was tossed into the woods, a traditional practice in ancient Dybbuk lore. Most survived, but aged prematurely and was never quite the same again. All right, and the third and final Dybbuk exorcism was the woman of Safed. Hope I'm saying that right, but hey, you know us. 17th century in Palestine, Ottoman Palestine. So in the mystical hilltop town of Safed, where Kabbalistic scholars studied divine secrets, a woman named Rivka bat Leah, which I thought was weird because the other chick's name was Leah. I was like, what? That's
Oh,
weird.
yeah, that is weird.
Was known for her wisdom and devotion, but her fate turned dark when she began claiming visions of angels and demons, often speaking in voices not her own. That's just such a common thing with this.
Mm-hmm.
The town's greatest scholar, Rabbi Isaac Luria, investigated her case. It was determined she was possessed by the soul of a Kabbalist who had committed a great sin, one so grave he was forbidden entry into the world to come. He had attached himself to Rivka, believing she could offer him redemption. Over several days of fasting, prayer, and ritual incantations, Luria and his disciples attempted to release the Dybbuk. On the seventh day, Rivka collapsed into unconsciousness. The Dybbuk left, but not before revealing secrets about the afterlife that shook even the most faithful mystics. And I tried to figure out what those secrets were, and I couldn't find them, so I don't know what they were.
Because they're secrets.
Because they're secrets. Rivka never fully recovered, but her story became one of the most cited Dybbuk encounters in Jewish mysticism, passed down from scholar to scholar.
From generation to generation.
Generation to generation of scholars. There you go.
They're all cursed.
So these were the Dybbuks that haunted the old world, disembodied spirits fueled by sorrow, vengeance, and unfinished business. And as I said earlier, sometimes rather than banishing the Dybbuk back to the void, these exorcists would trap the spirits inside an object. There were always rules, however. Never open a Dybbuk container unless you know what you're doing. Never bring it into a sacred space, and never ever dismiss its power. And if that
Literally
container
little
is
common sense.
Yeah. And if the container is opened, well, that's where the horror begins. So what happens when such a spirit is sealed in a box and sold to the highest bidder? The Dybbuk box we know today surfaced in 2001 on an unassuming eBay list. It was a
Of course.
Yeah.
Fucking eBay.
It was a small wine cabinet made of dark wood, antique, innocent enough. But the seller, a man named Kevin Mannis, attached a message that would freeze the blood of anybody who read it. He included a dire warning, one that read less like a product description and more like the opening lines of a cursed manuscript. Here is what he wrote, word for word. Quote, I would like to offer this box up as a serious warning. Do not bid on this box unless you're prepared to accept the full consequences of owning it. The box has a history of strange occurrences. Every person who has had it encountered nightmares, bad luck, and unexplained health issues. It is not a toy. It is not a game. I am not responsible for whatever happens once it leaves my possession, unquote. And yet, people bid.
Hey, at least good for him for putting the disclaimer.
Yeah.
It's like, I warned you, but people don't take that stuff seriously.
They don't. Because humans are curious. That's why they bid. And sometimes curiosity doesn't just kill the cat, it invites something far darker into your life. But Kevin Mannis wasn't a horror writer or an internet prankster. He was a professional writer and antique stealer from Portland, Oregon, a man with an eye for old things and old stories. And his story about the cursed box began with an estate sale. Dun, dun, dun.
That's how it always begins.
Goddamn estate sales. Kevin purchased the box from the estate of a Polish Holocaust survivor, an elderly woman who had fled the Nazi regime and spent the remainder of her life in the United States. Her name was Havela, which I think is a beautiful name. I love that. Her name was Havela, a Jewish woman born in Poland in the early 20th century. She survived the Holocaust by fleeing the Nazi invasion with a small group of resistance fighters. She had seen death, she had seen the worst of mankind, and she had seen something else. According to the granddaughter who sold the estate's contents, Havela and a group of women, all spiritualists, all survivors, once performed a ritual to trap a malevolent spirit that they had contacted with a makeshift Ouija board that they made with embroidery on a handkerchief.
Oh, you never make it? No. Never
Bad idea, ladies.
Board. That's the worst.
On a handkerchief at that. Ooh. A Dybbuk, one said to have followed them across borders through bomb towns and refugee camps. So
they've been through enough. Leave them alone.
Yeah. They were. I wonder why. I think they were just trying to like communicate with it to see what it wanted, and things just didn't go well. That's what it seems like.
Went downhill from there.
Yeah. So they succeeded in binding the spirit into a wine cabinet, the very one Kevin Mannis would later buy, and Havela kept it hidden for the rest of her life. She never opened it, never touched it, and she warned her children to stay away from it. She believed to her dying day that the entity inside was not finished, and she may have been right. She was right.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. When Mannis arrived at the estate sale in Portland, Oregon, he wasn't searching for haunted artifacts. He was simply looking for antiques. He spotted the wine cabinet in the basement, tucked into a corner, unassuming, but oddly out of place among the rest of the items. A plain wooden box amidst fine china, artwork, and heirlooms. He asked the granddaughter about it. Her demeanor changed, quiet, hesitant. She told him, quote, "My grandmother called it a Dybbuk box. She said it should never be opened," unquote. Mannis asked if she wanted to keep it, given its significance. The woman shook her head, quote, "We don't want it. None of the family will take it. It needs to go," unquote. She sold it without haggling, as if the transaction wasn't about money at all, but about removal, about release. Just like that, Mannis became the latest owner of a very old, very dangerous secret. Thinking he had stumbled on a fine antique, he took it to his store.
Dun, dun, dun.
Gotta wet my whistle.
That's what she said.
I am the worst whistler.
That is so weird, because when me and Ryan were walking last night, he whistled at someone he knew, like the whoo-hoo whistle. Yeah. And I was like, I'm so jealous because I can't whistle either. So I'm just like, just trying to whistle and I can't do it. So like, I envy anyone that can whistle. Like, it's a piece of cake.
Yeah, I suck at it, but hey, it is what it is.
It's all right.
So things clearly began to go wrong for Mr. Manus after he brought it home. Or brought
You
it to his
don't
shop.
say. You don't say.
You don't say. So shortly after bringing the box into his shop, Manus began experiencing odd occurrences. Lights flickering, unexplained smells of jasmine and cat urine.
What? Ew.
I don't understand. Like, why jasmine? I love jasmine. That's what I wear.
Combine it with cat urine?
And then cat urine on top. Like, ew.
That's very distinct smell.
Yeah. Objects were moving on their own. That is the creepiest thing to see, man. It's so creepy. Customers would complain of cold spots, strange noises. Employees began quitting. I wonder why. I mean, I guess it makes sense, but why cold is associated with ghosts
Spirits?
and spirits? I mean, I get it, but I just wonder why.
I don't know. If you don't watch Supernatural, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but like every time like Dean and Sam
Oh, you need to get a Geralt.
I'm holding up a Dean Funko Pop on camera. But every
So
time
cute.
they're on a case, that's like one of the first thing they ask. They're like, "Have you noticed any lights flickering or any cold spots around here?"
Hmm.
And it always makes me think of that because I don't know why spirits are like associated with electricity and cold spots, but it's interesting.
It is. Okay, so yeah, strange noises, those cold spots, employees began to quit. I would too, man. Be like, peace, I'm out.
Yeah.
Want something following me home.
No, this ain't Casper.
Inside, he found a strange assortment of items. 2 locks of hair. Wait, before we move on, insert Casper here. Ooh. Okay.
Shh.
Yay, now I don't have to look up sound effects. Thanks.
Perfect. Anything I can help.
So inside, he found a strange assortment of items. 2 locks of hair, one blonde, one dark, tied with a string. A small granite statue inscribed with the Hebrew words shalom, which I looked up, and it said it means much more than just peace. I think that's generally what it means. It's just peace, but it encompasses wholeness, well-being, completeness, and harmony, and can be used as a greeting or a farewell, but it also conveys a deeper wish for someone's prosperity and safety. So there you go. And a goblet, a dried rosebud, a candle holder with octopus-like legs, and a strange skeletal shadow burned into the inside of the lid.
Ooh.
I don't know that it actually means lid. I think it's just like the underside of the inside of the cabinet.
Gotcha.
There was also what appeared to be a small tablet engraved with ancient symbols, sigils used in protective Kabbalistic rituals. After opening the box, Manus's life took a sharp downward spiral. He began to have terrifying nightmares, always the same. A withered hag with sunken eyes, beating him senseless. He would wake up with bruises and scratches.
Jeez.
The withered hag, man. I think that's what my sister always would see when she had sleep paralysis. It was like this floating withered hag. Ugh.
It's very common.
Ugh. Who is this bitch?
The hag.
What is her story?
Maybe you should do an episode on that.
Hey.
I don't know. I don't know the story. I don't know. I just know it's a very common sleep paralysis is to see, and like a lot of people will like have her choking them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She sits on top of them and it's like suffocates them.
Ooh. Yeah, that would be a cool episode.
Mm-hmm.
So one night he dreamt that the woman was standing over his bed, her mouth gaping open in a silent scream. That is the worst, man. We've talked about this before. Anything with a big, open, gaping mouth is so terrifying. Ugh.
Yeah, that one gave me chills.
Yeah, I hate that.
Especially when it's just pure silence.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Ew. That same night, he woke to the smell of burning hair and found a mirror shattered in the hall. Now
Oh
imagine
God.
this. Yeah, things were escalating quickly. Imagine this. You've just discovered that an old wine cabinet you picked up from an estate sale contains mysterious relics, exudes strange smells, and has already disrupted your business with unexplained happenings. You're having recurring nightmares. Your shop is falling into chaos, but you're still skeptical. I wouldn't be at this point.
No. Still skeptical?
Skeptical enough to do this next part. So, Kevin Mannis wasn't a man prone to superstition. At first, he saw the box as a curiosity, a cultural relic, perhaps even a unique antique with a fascinating backstory. So, when Halloween rolled around, he
Of
decided
course.
to do something unusual.
What? What did he do?
He gave the box to his mother.
Do you hate your mother?
It was like, what the hell? He gave
What
it
is
to his
wrong with
mom.
you?
Not as a prank, but as a token of sentiment. I'm like, you guys have some weird love languages going on in your family.
Oh, hey, like all this weird stuff has happened and bad stuff has happened since I bought this wine cabinet. But you know what, Mom? I'm gonna give it to you because I love you.
Makes zero sense.
He just doesn't like his mom.
So, allegedly, Kevin had recently restored the box, polishing the wood, reattaching the fixtures, and replacing the velvet lining inside. It looked on the surface like a charming heirloom. To him, it seemed meaningful, mysterious, the kind of item that might intrigue someone as curious and spiritual as his mother. Hmm. I don't think she's that spiritual. Come on.
If she was that spiritual, she'd be like, get this fucking thing out of my house.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah. So clearly, he didn't fully grasp the danger. Not yet. But that changed almost instantly. So, just minutes after unwrapping the box, his mother suffered a massive stroke. She was rushed to the hospital, and while she survived, she lost the ability to speak. When Kevin came to visit her, she pointed to the box, eyes wide, trembling, and spelled out two chilling words on a piece of paper: "No gift," in all
Ooh.
caps. It haunted him. She had never been sick, no warning signs, and she had touched the box for barely a moment. Kevin, now deeply unnerved, took the box back and tried to rationalize. He was still fighting the idea of the supernatural, clinging to coincidence. But the incidents escalated. The shadows in his peripheral vision, the burning smells, the same dream over and over again. The feeling that he was being watched, not just in the dark, but in broad daylight. Been there. Unable to handle the object any longer, Kevin began trying to give it away. Friends, acquaintances, a few other antique collectors. What would you do in that instance? I feel like I would burn the fucking thing. I don't know.
I mean, if you can burn it without problem, I would burn it. But if someone like
Yeah.
really wanted it, no one like I knew, like how he wrote the note, I would like
Mm-hmm.
write something like that, like this, don't take this lightly. If you do, it's kind of on you. But I would not want to keep that thing. And I don't know if burning it like sets it like free. I don't know. Like I don't know how this stuff works.
Yeah, my dumbass, I probably wouldn't have even looked into it and just burned it. And it's probably the worst thing you can do.
But I wouldn't put myself in that position of getting it.
Yeah, true.
So
I would because I mean, shit, I got that piece of furniture from the Ridges. No, I thought it was so cool, but luckily there was nothing attached to it.
but it's not like a cursed object. Like I don't
Yeah,
like this is beyond curses. Like this is something so evil.
right.
I just yeah, I'm gonna give it to my mom. So Makes no sense.
None of them would keep it. None of his friends that he tried to give it to.
So
Obviously.
you're gonna give it to your friend?
This guy has got some issues. He's got some issues.
Jeez,
Like,
what a guy, Kev.
Figure out another way. Stop putting other people in danger. The heck?
Damn, Kevin.
So one friend returned it after just 3 days, saying his hair was falling out in chunks and his pets refused to enter the room where it was kept.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're smart. Another friend swore that her apartment lights burst one by one and that her boyfriend began waking up screaming, saying he saw a woman with hollowed eyes crouched on their ceiling. Ugh.
Oh my god.
I hate that. I hate that.
That one gave me big chills. No, thank you.
Mm-mm. One man, a fellow antiques dealer, lasted a full week. Then he called Kevin in the middle of the night, frantic and breathless, demanding Kevin come get it. Quote, "I won't touch it," the man said. "It's locked in the shed. Come get it before something worse happens." Unquote. Kevin retrieved the box. At this point, he's probably like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this thing? Kevin retrieved the box, this time wrapping it in a blanket and locking it inside a military-grade storage trunk. But it didn't stop. One night, he found the trunk open, even though it had been padlocked. The box was sitting on the kitchen table. No one else was home.
Oh, God. Kevin.
At this point, Kevin gave in. You think? The fear was too great. The experiences too specific. The feeling of being stalked, haunted, hollowed out. It was becoming unbearable. That's when he turned to the one place where cursed things sometimes find a new home. The internet.
Of course.
He wrote the now infamous eBay listing, not as a joke, not as fiction, but as a warning. He detailed his experiences meticulously. He told of Havela, of the stroke, the hair, the dreams, the smells, the shadows, and he ended it with a desperate note, quote, "I have come to the conclusion that the cabinet is haunted. I want it out of my life," unquote. And still, curiosity is a powerful drug, and someone would soon take the bait.
So how long do you think he had it total?
I think it was a matter of years that he had it. Because
oh, wow, okay.
This is over a span, like maybe 2 years or something. 1 or 2
Okay.
years. So eventually, Manus sold the box to a college student who also began to experience severe and strange misfortunes. Now, I put college student and not a specific name because depending on where I looked, there were different names. So I don't think anybody really knows accurately who the college student was. Because in one article it said Sean, and another article it was like a Middle Eastern name. I'm like, I'll just put college student.
And they could also always change the name and not use the person's real name.
Right.
So the name changes over time, different stories.
Right. And I think just knowing that it's a college age student is enough. So, yeah, this college student began to experience severe and strange misfortunes. Lights exploded, electronics failed. He and his roommates reported overwhelming feelings of dread, which is a common theme with this box, too. The student resold it to a Missouri-based antiques collector who returned it quickly, claiming it brought unexplained illness and paranoia. By 2003, the Dybbuk Box had changed several hands, each owner reporting nightmares, illness, and dread, until it found its way into the inbox of a man named Jason Haxton. Unlike Kevin Manus, Jason wasn't drawn to the box by fear or superstition. He was, and still is, a medical museum director, a man of science with a fascination for historical oddities and ancient folklore. At the time, he was working at A.T. Still University. Had you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of that place? When I first was reading about it, I'm like, is that a typo? What is that? But it's an actual university. It's a leading healthcare sciences University in Kirksville, Missouri. And I'd
Never heard of it.
Curating medical artifacts and oddity. Well, he was working there and also curating medical artifacts and oddities from history.
Gotcha.
Jason thought he was buying a cultural relic, a case study in folklore, perhaps a tool for academic discussion. But once the Dybbuk box entered his life, just like everybody else's, everything changed. Even before opening the package, Jason reported strange physical effects. He experienced intense burning in his eyes, coughing fits, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Colleagues at the museum began falling ill. Equipment failed. Lights flickered. Visitors spoke of the suppressive energy in the room where the box was kept, even though it was still in a shipping crate. When he finally opened the box, the symptoms escalated. Jason was plagued with paranormal nightmares, being dragged by an invisible force, suffocated by a shadowy figure, even waking up with deep red welts on his torso. His skin erupted in hives, his gums bled. Doctors had no answers, all tests came back clear. But what truly terrified him were the sounds. One night, after placing the Dybbuk box into a sealed acacia wood container lined with gold leaf and mirrors, like this dude was really trying to contain this thing. That was a makeshift spiritual trap based on Kabbalistic principles. Jason and a friend heard something that made their blood run cold. The box screamed. Could you imagine?
Ew.
Could you imagine?
No, I don't want to.
Ugh. It was a guttural, high-pitched howl, like a banshee.
I was just about to say that.
Like something inhuman trying to escape. His friend ran from the house and refused to return. Been there. My friends ran out from my haunted house and never returned. Jason knew that science alone wasn't going to protect him. Desperate for answers, he contacted several Jewish rabbis, experts in Kabbalah and Jewish mysticism. He wanted to understand what he had, and more importantly, what he could do to neutralize it. One elderly rabbi from New York told him plainly, quote, "This is not a joke. You are in danger. You must not attempt to destroy it, only contain it." Unquote.
So you can't burn it.
Yeah, I guess not. I feel like what I would imagine if you tried to burn it, it probably wouldn't be affected by the fire. It would just set it free. Like, because really, it's only contained by the object. It's not attached to it per se. So once the object is gone, it's probably just free to roam.
Which is even more scary.
Yeah, because then it's going to go into somebody's body.
Nobody's safe.
No. So another explained that if the box truly had a Dybbuk, the entity had once been a human, but its soul had been corrupted, twisted by rage, tragedy, or unfinished trauma, which most likely was from the Holocaust, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
That's
a lot of trauma.
Oh, yeah. It could not be reasoned with. It could only be bound. So Jason agreed to perform a ritual. The ritual took place at night in a secluded area, and I'm guessing this was at his house. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell where this secluded area was, but I know it was indoors. The Dybbuk box was placed inside a specially constructed ark, a wooden chest carved with protective Hebrew inscriptions, lined with mirrors, and sealed with wax and consecrated soil from the Mount of Olives. Do you know what that is?
No.
I didn't either. And I should have, because I grew up in church. A significant location in religious history, holding importance for both Judaism and Christianity. So for Christians, it's where Jesus ascended to heaven and where he will return for his second coming. It is also the site of the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus prayed before his crucifixion. For Jews, it's a sacred burial ground, believed to be where the Messiah will usher in the resurrection of the dead. So this is some serious soil.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much he paid for that.
Can't
Probably
put
a
a
lot.
price on cursed
I guess not.
objects.
So as the ritual unfolded, Jason recited prayers provided by the rabbi. These weren't your average blessings, they were incantations designed to neutralize spiritual corruption and seal malevolent forces. So he's basically exorcising this cabinet, is what it seems like. Like he's performing an exorcism.
Yeah. Or trapping it
Yeah.
instead of like expelling it, like demons be gone. It's more like demons stay in here.
Yeah. So during the final phase, the temperature in the room plummeted, which again is another common theme.
Mm-hmm.
The candles around the ark blew out, which is another thing that seems to always happen, though no wind had entered the space. But I get it because when my grandmother passed away and I was holding on to her hands, I felt that's what I would describe it as. It was like a gust of energy. And I imagine that's probably what that is,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe on a much stronger level because it's a demonic entity.
Yeah. What's had power over time to build up? Like with your grandma, she just passed away, right? And so I
Exactly.
think over time you need to build up this energy. And clearly it's built up a lot of negative and evil stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be very powerful.
Yeah. Jason reported a moment of crushing silence, a vacuum of sound, followed by a long, soft breath that didn't belong to anyone present. And then nothing. Silence. Stillness. Jason placed the sealed Ark Dybbuk box inside into a hidden climate-controlled military-grade container. Its location a secret, known only to him. He never opened it again. But while Jason may have contained the Dybbuk, he had also made it famous. Jason Haxton wasn't your average collector, he was also a meticulous researcher. Before acquiring the box, he had already heard whispers. The tales surrounding it had begun to snowball across online forums, local blogs, and early horror message boards. The original eBay listing, preserved in fragments and screenshots, became a modern digital campfire tale. Shared, debated, doubted, and feared. From the moment the box entered his home, Jason documented his experience. He wasn't interested in just rumors, he wanted proof. He began to blog about his experience, offering updates and theories. His candid, unnerving entries drew thousands of readers. People obsessed with the paranormal, skeptics, and scholars alike began to follow the unfolding story. And with each entry, the myth of the Dybbuk box grew, evolving from an urban legend into a full-fledged internet phenomenon. And still, I'd never heard of it. But I'm surprised I didn't stumble upon it on YouTube because that's pretty much the only internet that I use. But Jason's meticulous accounts on his experiences, paired with the original stories by Kevin Mannis, began to inspire not just readers, but filmmakers. And soon, Hollywood came knocking.
They always do.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what movie was based on this?
I feel like I do, but it's not popping up right now.
The Dybbuk box would eventually become the inspiration for the 2012 horror film The Possession, produced by Sam Raimi, which I've never watched. I wanted to watch it before I did this, but I just didn't have time.
I actually don't think I know that one.
I want to watch it because I bet it's freaky. So the film fictionalized many aspects of the tale, adding its own spin, but retained the central idea that the haunted box tied to an ancient Jewish spirit could devastate those who crossed its path. Jason Haxton consulted on the film, offering insight and first-hand experience. Though the movie took liberties, Its release catapulted the Dybbuk Box into the mainstream. Suddenly, millions of people knew its name. Paranormal investigators began referencing it in their work. Online ghost hunters dubbed it as the most haunted item in America. But that was only the beginning. Following the film's success, more stories emerged. Imitation Dybbuk boxes popped up on eBay. I guess there's tons of them. Filled with false relics and spooky trinkets. Haunted objects collectors began referencing the Dybbuk Protocol as a kind of cautionary tale for dealing with cursed artifacts. Even skeptics admitted something about this box, real or not, had power. Today, the Dybbuk box remains one of the most famous cursed objects in the world, thanks in large part to Jason Haxton's efforts, his openness, his details, and his willingness to take seriously what others might have laughed off. And whether you believe in Dybbuks or not, the Dybbuk box is no longer just a haunted antique, it's a legend. So to tell the story of the Dybbuk box's final resting place, we must talk about one of the most recognizable figures in modern paranormal investigations. Dun dun dun!
Zach Baggins.
Bilbo Baggins. Just kidding.
The Hobbit?
I wonder if he's related to Bilbo.
I wouldn't put it past him.
He seems like a real piece of work. I don't know him very much because I always find that kind of stuff super freaking cheesy.
Yeah, he's not everyone's favorite. I don't watch much of the show at all. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes. And I think we talked about this before, in his like first beginning seasons, like he actually seems like concerned and like, I don't know. And then as he's gotten more into fame, he just become more of a douchebag.
That's usually the way it goes. Fame
It's just
takes
like
over.
he let it go to his head, and then now he's like always taunting the spirits and like yelling at them. It's just like, well, you have to bring. It's just poor Aaron. I always feel bad for Aaron.
Aaron, who's that?
One of his video guys, where he's always like, all right, we'll go this way. Pretty much, Aaron, you go that way by yourself. Or Aaron, go in the dark basement by yourself. So Aaron always gets like the short end of the stick.
That's messed up.
But I just feel like money kind of went to Zach's head a little bit. And it's like, now I have all this stuff that I can do. And I can make a museum out of it. Which the museum is very cool. I'm not going to lie. I would love to go back.
Yeah, it does sound cool.
But he's not my favorite person.
He's got a good taste in wardrobe, though, by the sounds of things.
All black.
Yeah. Baggins, not Bilbo, not Frodo, but Zach.
Dildo.
But Dildo. Dildo.
Edit.
Okay. Dildo Baggins, Zach Baggins, is best known as the charismatic and fearless host of the long-running Travel Channel series Ghost Adventures. If you hear me, pull my finger. Did I tell you that story?
I'm so confused right now.
My family and I were just making fun of like ghost hunting shows. And like we need to go in with the camera and be like, if you can hear me, pull my finger. Insert fart noise.
I'm not even gonna try.
Since its debut in 2008, the show has chronicled Zach and his team as they explore some of the most haunted locations in the world. Abandoned hospitals, prisons, battlefields, and beyond. Has he been to the Ridges? Do you know?
I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. He's been, obviously, they've been doing it for like, 20 years?
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me.
Ooh, battlefields. That would be a trip. That's a lot of angry, horrible deaths right there.
Like another thing he always says about Aaron, he'll be just like, I just felt this anger taking over me, and I just looked at Aaron and wanted to strangle him. And it's like, poor Aaron. In real life, it's actually very recent. Aaron's wife put a hitman out on him.
What?
Yeah, poor. See, Aaron's poor Aaron.
Jesus. Okay.
Obviously, she got caught, which she should have. But his life, he just gets the short end of the stick.
Wow. Oh my God. So yes, abandoned hospitals, prisons, battlefields, and beyond. With his distinct black wardrobe, I see you. Intense persona and fearless attitude, Zach has become a cult icon among fans of the paranormal. I thought that was funny that Mike last night on Paddy Wagon was pointing out like, how opposites attract, how we look. Just how we look, though. It's just the surface is opposite.
Yeah, Elvira.
In 2017, he opened the Zach Bagans Haunted Museum in Las Vegas, Nevada, a sprawling 11,000 square foot historic mansion located just off the strip.
Big.
That is huge.
It's very big.
Huge. Mm-hmm. The museum houses more than 30 rooms and hundreds of allegedly haunted artifacts, each with a documented story, a curse, or a chilling tale behind it. What a cool collection to have, though.
You have to sign a waiver before you go in.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Items include Charles Manson's ashes,
yep.
Dr. Jack Kevorkian's death van,
yep,
a haunted mirror owned by Bela Lugosi. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm. So with the mirror, is that the mirror that's the portal? Because if it is,
look it up.
They'll be like, at your own warning, if you look into the mirror, it's a portal. So that's up to you if you want to look into it. Like, things have happened to people that have looked into it and stuff, and I did not look into it. I did not want to.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, maybe we can for our series.
You can find us at patreon.com/weeklybazaar. I don't like Vegas, but I will go back to Vegas just for his museum.
I don't think I would like Vegas either.
We'll just pass on through. But I would love to go with you.
Yep. You can find us.
Again, at patreon.com/weeklybazaar.
Don't hate us. Love us. Okay. Let's see. The haunted mirror and a staircase from the demon house in Gary, Indiana. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
That sounds freaky as hell. And I guess he investigated that location too. But perhaps the most infamous item in the collection is none other than the Dybbuk Box. So Zach had long followed the story of the Dybbuk Box. After the film, the possession reignited public interest, and Jason Haxton's testimony added credibility to its terrifying history. Baggins reached out to Haxton personally, and I guess that makes sense because of the type of person Jason seems to be. Like, it's pretty easy to take him seriously. Mm-hmm. So the two began communicating, Zach and Jason, not as showman and skeptic, but as two men who had stared into something dark and unexplainable. In 2016, Zach officially acquired the Dybbuk Box from Jason Haxton. The details of the sale remain largely private, but Haxton has since said he felt that Zach was the right person to take ownership, not only because of his experience with haunted artifacts, but because of his commitment to documenting and securing the most dangerous items. I wonder, like, because those haunted items are together, I wonder if they affect each other in some way.
Well, actually, it's funny that you say that because they put it used to be with other objects, and then they put the Dybbuk box by itself.
Mm.
Like they had to put it was just out in the open. It was like a don't touch thing. But I believe over time when I was there, now they have it in a full glass case. They have a bunch of like salt and all this stuff around it. But they have
Wow.
one specific room just for that alone. Because yeah, I'm gonna guess with all these haunted objects, they do feed off each other. And in some rooms, they have cameras of like they keep cameras rolling overnight. And so they show what has happened overnight, and you'll see things like go flying off the shelves.
Wow.
They almost look like baby monitors.
Okay.
And so you just see like a lot of things that will happen overnight. It's a creepy place.
Yeah. Sounds awesome. But terrifying.
He has a full room of dolls that you have to walk through, so you'll love that. It's like a closet space full of dolls.
If you're new here, I'm the creepy doll lady. I used to scare people with my dolls when I was a child. Because I'm just that weird. That's what I thought you were going to say last night when he asked on the podcast we were on. He asked us to say the weirdest thing about the other one. And I thought for sure you were going to say something about my thing.
No, I didn't even think about that. I send you creepy doll pictures from thrift stores all the time.
Yeah, I loved that last one. I need to get a paint kit so I can actually paint up that doll that you gave me.
I know, I gave it to you like a year ago.
I feel like that could totally become a hobby for me because I am pretty artistic, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Plus, I love dolls, creepy dolls.
And then you should start putting them behind you in your background.
I have my super creepy doll that my grandma made. Is actually up in the closet right up here above me. She's huge, though, but she needs some work. She needs like a new wardrobe.
Well, start putting them in the background.
I did buy something for the doll, though.
Like, what did you buy?
Black dye for the clothes. Oh, God. Yeah. She's going to be cool when she's done. I'll have to do a start to finish on a reel.
That would be cool.
Yeah, but that'll be probably months in the making, so stay tuned. Okay, so yeah, the reason Jason wanted to give this to Zach is because he was good at being able to secure these more dangerous items. So Zach installed the box in a specially designed sealed chamber within the haunted museum, which you were just talking about. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like he just keeps
adding protection. Yeah, is what it seems like.
Yeah. Okay, so visitors can view the room through glass, but are strictly prohibited from touching or opening the container. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, but there's how he had it. From like what I'm trying to remember, there's no way you can open it. The glass around it, that is.
Mm-hmm. So from the moment Zach Baggins took possession of it in 2016, he was drawn not just to its lore, but to the power it radiated. Zach didn't acquire the box as a trophy. He wanted answers, as they all do. But I don't think you're ever going to get answers. I don't think you can reason with something like this.
No.
Baggins conducted a series of private investigations with the box, some of which were documented, others kept deliberately secret. What occurred during these private sessions was never theatrical, never for show, only raw encounters between a man and something ancient, volatile, and unseen, allegedly. In the first of these investigations, Zach enlisted a small team of trusted museum staff and close investigators. All cameras were off. Only audio was captured, raw, unfiltered, and chilling. According to first-hand reports, the moment the protective case was opened, the temperature of the sealed room dropped over 20 degrees in less than a minute. So weird. So creepy. One investigator began vomiting uncontrollably. Another
that would be me. Everything makes me vomit.
Another collapsed from what paramedics later described as non-epileptic seizure. That'd be me. He'd be puking and I'd be on the ground somewhere. What a mess.
I'll take the puking.
Yeah. Every time I have to go get like an immunization or my blood drawn, I have to tell them, I'm like, you got to give me a minute because otherwise you're going to be picking me up out in the parking lot. So
You'd be like the fainting goat if that happened. You just be like, freeze, and then just faint.
In our first episode, when you're like, what would you do if you saw a dead body? And you're like, body? That's when I'd be like, you'd be like, body. What a team. It's a glimpse into what one of our ghost hunts would look like.
Hey, we're going down. At least we're going down together.
Complete shit show. That would be the name of it. Welcome to another episode of the shit show where we go and try to hunt ghosts. Maybe this time we'll actually succeed.
Like we hear a noise, be like, oh, did you hear that? Be like, oh, that was my stomach. I'm hungry.
That reminded me of that. I think I've told you about that skit with Christopher Walken on SNL back in the day. He farted when they were ghost hunting, and all the other ghost hunters were like, oh, what was? Did you hear that? Rewind. And they kept rewinding and playing it back. Oh, and it got like the fart cloud on infrared. Like, look.
That would be us.
Oh, it would be so funny. Okay.
Where were we?
Oh, me on the ground having a seizure.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's taking off the protective cover. All these people are puking and passing out and everything. And Zach himself claimed to feel a violent pressure in his chest, as though something were pushing against his ribs from the inside. Ew. Ew.
Sounds like Zach.
But it didn't stop there. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what would that be?
I don't know.
I would feel like if you're feeling pressure, it would be from the outside in, not the inside out. I don't know. What do I know? Nothing.
You're not a ghost hunter, Jessica.
I'm not a professional. All right. In a later session, Zach attempted what few dare to do. He initiated communication. Using a modified spirit box and EMF detectors, he sat across from the open Dybbuk box, not touching, not provoking, simply listening. At first, there was only static, then clicks, rhythmic thumps. A burst of what sounded like Hebrew, or something mimicking Hebrew, emerged from the speaker. Oh, hell no. My sister is friends with a woman who tries to communicate with the dead. And she was telling me this one story. Like, if I heard this, I would be so spooked. I can't remember where she was, but she was trying to communicate with this spirit, and she could tell that it was old. Like, it'd probably been there for a long time. And so she was asking it that. And she was like, how old are you? And it said hundreds. It just gives me chills thinking about it. Hundreds.
Ugh. Ugh, I got chills on that too. Yeah. No, thank y'all.
Hundreds. Oof. Oof. Okay. So, yes, this was speaking in Hebrew, which, oh my God. A single word, clear as day, repeated over and over. Shazir, which I guess means pig. Where is the pig?
Heck? Why is the pig?
Oh,
he's behind me. He's above my head.
Yeah. So in Jewish tradition, the word shazir can be used as an insult, a sign of impurity, of desecration. To him, it was not random. It was a warning, a curse, a declaration of disgust from something that knew what it was saying. I wonder why, like with possessions, they usually talk like that. Like they're just insulting and saying really degrading things to the people that are trying to talk to them.
Because they're probably angry. They've been trapped in, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah.
They're evil for a reason, right? It's not going to be like, oh, this evil entity is trying to take over, and they're not going to be like, you look so pretty today, you know?
Right.
It's more like, I'm going to cut your throat.
Zach later consulted with rabbis and Jewish historians. None could explain how a spirit box tuned to random frequencies would suddenly lock onto that word in that tongue, in that context, and yet it had. On another occasion, while the box remained unopened but unshielded, visitors began reporting that familiar overwhelming sense of dread before even entering the room. One
Feeling of
woman
dread.
fainted just from looking at it. Me.
The fainting goat.
An employee working a routine overnight shift fled the building after hearing what he described as, quote, a woman weeping and scratching at the walls, unquote.
Ugh.
Even though the museum was empty and all cameras showed no intruders. You. So
No.
was this a lady? A lady ghost? The most disturbing private session came in 2019 when Zach conducted a ritual cleansing after a string of museum staff fell mysteriously ill. The rabbi involved reportedly left halfway through the process, visibly shaken, muttering prayers under his breath. Zach himself did not sleep for 3 days following the session and claimed to experience vivid visions of fire and shadow pressing against him in his dreams. He later said, quote, I've investigated hundreds of haunted locations, but with this box, I feel like I'm not investigating something haunted. I'm confronting something cursed, something alive in a way that we don't understand, unquote.
Thanks, Zach, because we had no idea.
Thanks for the clarification, bub. One of the most famous incidents occurred when musician Post Malone visited the museum in 2018. Yep.
I remember this one.
Yeah, you were saying something about this.
Because it's on video, actually.
Oh, it is? Maybe
there's if you don't get into it, I'll say, but there is a video of Post Malone and Zach in the room with it and what happens.
During his visit, Zach briefly removed the protective cover from the Dybbuk box. Though Post didn't touch the box directly, he touched Zach's shoulder during the moment of contact. Soon after, Post experienced a string of terrifying events. His private jet made an emergency landing, his home was broken into, and he was involved in a serious car crash, all within weeks. Mm-hmm. So tell us about the video. Do you remember it?
Trying to do my best to describe it from what I remember, but Post Malone and Zach, they were in the room and he was like showing him it, and they were talking, kind of goofing, and all of a sudden Zach just becomes like still, and like he's like starts being mesmerized by the box, and he just starts staring into it, and he's starting like his hand is like going over to touch it like he's possessed, and like Post Malone starts freaking out because he's like not, Zach is incoherent is what it looks like, and so he kind of like shakes him, and so that's probably when he touched his shoulder. Yeah, so he's probably like, dude, what are you doing? Like, and then Zach, when he came to, he's like, I don't remember anything other than I needed to touch the box.
Ooh.
But like you just see him in this like really, like he's out of it, and it just happened so fast. And so yeah, that must be when Post Malone got the bad luck, just by trying to shake him out of his state he was in.
Creepy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
So to this day, Zach claims the Dybbuk box is one of the most powerful and dangerous items he's ever encountered. He continues to warn the public about the risks of meddling with cursed objects, and the museum has adopted strict protocols for its handling. And while the Dybbuk box remains sealed today, its lid never opened, its contents untouched, Zach admits that it calls to him, not with sound, not even with dreams, but with that same primal pull that lured Kevin Mannis and tormented Jason Haxton. And that reminds me of my alien story. That's what I felt. Like when I felt like that pull to go into my grandmother's room. That's what I imagine that to be like. And so after nearly a century of silence, decades of secrecy, the Dybbuk box rests behind a thick glass and ritual protections. But the stories have only grown louder. And so this is the part that I wasn't sure I want to put in or not, because it really pissed me off, to be honest, because this was after I had done all of my research and everything. I stumbled upon this article, and it's basically debunking that this is even true.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And it's even alleging that Kevin admits to fabricating the story about the woman from the Holocaust, and like he just made up the whole thing to see what would happen, to see what people would do with it. So I almost feel like I have to talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. This is what we do. We gotta banter.
Yeah. So yeah, after I was just wrapping things up, and I kind of do like how I do my research is I do like a broad research, and then I go in individually and find the details of certain parts that I want to like explore more on. And that's what I was doing, and I can't remember exactly what part it was. And I was researching a specific part, and that's where I saw this article, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. What? Because I was like almost done just polishing things up, and I saw this. So before we wrap this up, we must address the growing shadow that's recently crept into the legend of the Dybbuk box, the possibility that it may have all been a constructed horror narrative from the start. So in recent years, investigators and journalists from platforms like Input Magazine and I first saw the blog, which is called Supernatural Spot. Have you ever heard of it?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so that's where I first saw it, and then I looked more into it and found there was an article from Input Magazine as well. And what they uncovered casts serious doubt on its authenticity, which that would be so crazy, and that would be like the most extreme placebo effect I think I've ever heard of, if it's really not true, because of what all these people have experienced. So as we know, the story first appeared on eBay in 2003, where Kevin Mannis, or 2001, sorry, where Kevin Mannis, the original owner, described the haunted box and its terrifying effects. But in interviews conducted later, Mannis admitted that the story was a work of fiction. Allegedly, I don't know if this is actually true or not, but the way these people, especially on the blog, were talking is like the information's out there. He fully admits to it. So I don't know. But Mannis admitted that the story was a work of fiction, a piece of immersive horror storytelling written in real time to engage an audience on the internet. Mannis, and it did say he was a writer, so I don't know. A writer and creative mind crafted the story using elements from Jewish folklore, specifically the Dybbuk legend, and peppered in eerie details, bizarre occurrences, and tragic events to sell the illusion. His goal wasn't necessarily to deceive maliciously, but rather to create an evolving mythos that blurred the line between fiction and reality. It was a form of interactive storytelling before creepypasta became a household term. And what followed was something extraordinary, a fictional narrative that took on a life of its own. People began to believe in the curse. Owners after Mannis, including Jason Haxton, seemed to experience genuine phenomena, feeding the legend and adding layers of sincerity to what began as a creative experiment. I don't know. And the more that I was looking into it, it seems like even Kevin's friends admit to like being in on it. Like the locks of hair were theirs and things like that. But
Really?
then Jason and Zach and any of the other owners swear that these things actually happened to them. Like they don't believe that it was made up. So I don't know. If you know, you can email us at weeklybizarrepodcast@gmail.com because I would love to know if this is actually fake. I mean,
did Kevin go on record himself and was like, yeah, I made this up?
that's what this article said. Yeah.
Or they just said, no, this is what Kevin said, allegedly.
They said that he went on record and admitted it because I guess it was getting to a point where there was just no other option but to admit that he had fabricated it. So I don't know.
I don't know. It seems like so much to, I don't know.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought like I have to at least mention this. I didn't go down that rabbit hole because I honestly just didn't have time to do it, but I've read 2 different articles and they both said that he went on the record and admitted to fabricating the story. But he did say that some elements of it were true and did actually happen. Like his mother did have the stroke. He did get it from an estate sale, things like that. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe they're both true. That he just kind of escalated, making things worse, like making them sound creepier and worse than they were. But some of the stuff like did happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the Dybbuk Box. I guess it's up to you to decide whether you believe that it's actually haunted or not.
Yeah, and no, I haven't heard that. Now they're kind of rebunking it, and it's hard to take it from Zach. He's always going to be like, no, it's real because it's in my museum, you know? So he's not, I don't think, the most reliable source. But let's ask Post Malone, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the whole placebo effect thing, too. It's like once you breathe life into something, it just can take off. But yeah. So I hope you guys enjoy this new series. I think it's going to be really fun because a lot of the stuff I haven't heard about. So it'd be fun to learn about it, or things that you have heard of that you don't really know much about. Like you were talking about James Dean's car. That would be cool to go into. So yeah, I mean, it may not be all in succession, but we'll always come back to this and just add to it.
Yeah, that's fun.
But my next episode will be another cursed object because I've already started it. So.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Well, we love and appreciate the support, and you can follow us on all the social medias at Weekly Bizarre Podcast. You can email us at weeklybizarrepodcast@gmail.com. You can join us on Patreon for only $5 a month, so you can really help support us at patreon.com/weeklybizarre.
And again, another shout out to Mike from Paddy Wagon. Thanks again for having us on. You guys should go check him out. I think he's available on all the platforms as well, like all the podcast platforms,
especially the big 2 that people use, Spotify and Apple.
Yeah. Yep. So go check him out. It seems like he's got some pretty cool people on that are willing to talk about just about anything. So if that interests you, yeah, pop over and check him out. I think he said that our episode won't be out until like mid-July. He doesn't upload every week like we do. I think he does twice a month. So
yeah, just tell him the girls from Weekly Bizarre brought you there.
Yeah.
Well, if it's weird,
we're gonna talk about it.
bye.